we've got enough to do it, because it only makes sense to at least do it from Montrose, to Wooddale Road, I mean, for that stretch. And I think that was the stretch you were talking about, right? Ultimately is.
Yeah, I don't think we actually estimated it all the way to Montrose, but I thought the idea similar we did down the other side is that you have them more intense near Wooddale and Irving, and then they kind of start to spread out as you get further away.
So I think what I'm hearing is that for that line item for 0708, we would want 100,000 in there.
A minimum. We have to make sure there's no other excess anywhere else.
I'm going to call on Alderman Wesley, then Alderman Coles. Alderman Wesley?
Maggie already said that we could move 100,000. So I don't know why we debating it right now. I mean, she said there's money there to move 100,000. So, she said there's
know.
enough in the fund to move
50,000.
another 50,000
Yeah,
to bring it up to
50,000.
100,000. So, if she feel comfortable moving it, then move it.
Alderman Coles?
If I remember right, they were gonna start putting in 10, 5, and then 10, and then everything, and then we stopped it in order to get enough of money ahead so we could put in a lot more, because it was gonna cost us more money. If we put in 10 or we put in 5, and we were supposed to go all the way up to Montrose originally.
Alderman Subak?
Yeah, I think the goal would be to find out how much it's going to cost to engineer it, which is finding out where the electrical is and how we're going to place them. I think our previous assistant to the city manager actually did kind of the placement in-house last time. But, it'd be engineering, first, and then acquisition, and then, again, installing as many as you can each year. But at least you continue the project to get it done, otherwise it kind of sits stagnant. But Maggie, I didn't see in this budget 50,000 or 100,000. So I don't want to, again, short the landscaping improvements if we've already signed contracts for some of the projects we didn't do last year.
It's on that line item with the 160.
Oh, it is. It's so.
Alderman Ptolemy?
Yeah, what I would do then is I would say make a motion to raise account 9411, 942, 937, landscape improvements, from 160 to 210 for the 0708 budget.
Is there a second?
Second, but on the question,
Right, on the question.
again, I think there should be a separate line item under tourism fund because no offense to that committee, but I don't want to also think that these should be segregated monies, and I think the committee does a great job with coming up with these ideas, and they should continue to bring them. But this should be a separate line item in the tourism fund of X amount of dollars until the project's completed.
Does a motion or sub that change?
Yes, I would.
Additionally, on the question,
So, well, on the question?
Alderman Ptolemy?
So that would mean then that the 160 that's listed now actually goes to 110, correct? And we'd have a new line item that would actually be for the 100,000.
Yes.
Okay, I would agree with that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Alderman Wesley?
Hey, are we gonna do this whole fund now? Because if we did,
Would that be
we did
okay to
that,
do
then
this whole
I
fund now?
I have
Okay.
something that we need to add on there too.
Okay.
But I guess I could wait until the committee,
No, let's do it now since
special
we're
event
already
gives
on.
her presentation. I'll wait till then.
Okay, you want to wait? Okay. Okay. A follow-up question along those lines that, Ms. Powers, do you wish to go through the rest of your PowerPoint and then we'll do each of the funds one by one? Or do you want to do a
Actually,
different format?
I think it's probably good if we stop at each fund,
Okay.
and then I'll move on to the next one, because right now we're doing all the special revenue funds. This is the best time for me to describe what's in there and answer your questions, and, then the policy decisions can be made. So at this point, this was where the details could be discussed.
So,
Okay, and then I also understand that there were some previous questions on some funds that we already discussed, so.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So-
No,
Okay.
that's okay. So maybe what we'll do we want to finish off tourism and then we'll go back to the other funds and we'll take them one by one and then move forward? Okay. Yeah, go ahead. Alderman Wesley.
If we're gonna finish up tourism, the special event needs to do their presentation for 50,000, so should we go back to the two funds that we went through already, if there's any questions on those before, because I believe Mimi's here for her presentation for special event fund, am I correct? Okay, well, there is some questions on special event, so, because I have a couple questions on the road and bridge. Whatever way you guys want to go with, that's fine.
Alderman Wesley, I'd like to finish tourism now. So if there's some special events that need to be discussed, then I'm not sure who's going to bring forward that proposal. Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, on special events, it met Monday, and it changed some of these things around that we have in the budget and increased the amount. Do we have the new proposed budget for the council to consider?
What I do have is what we've spent in the past 2 years, and then Maggie, I think, had been presented that she
Ms. Anderson, if you could step up and let us know.
Would you like this copy of what's been spent in the last few years, and then the mayor may have the roundup?
Sure.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, are you indicating that the sheet that we have in our latest stack of funds is different?
Yeah, the committee met on Monday and changed some things around, deleted some events, added some events. And I was under the impression Amanda was going to be here to present the new proposal.
Yeah, I was unable to be there Monday, and I know she was busy putting that together, so I also had maybe made the assumption that it was going to come here as well this evening, but I don't have it in my
So
possession.
if we're not ready, perhaps we
But-
could just defer on the special events budget. Are there going to be other budget hearings other than tonight?
I would be okay with that. Absolutely. Then we'll do, should we then finish off tourism at our next scheduled budget session? Okay, Alderman Wesley.
Can't we approve everything so far, like the landscaping, the season decorating, the museum, the contest, and just leave the special event separate for the time?
I'm okay with that. We're okay with that. We'll do everything else except, okay, thank you. Sure. Alderman Subak.
The Convention Bureau, in years past, they used to show up here and tell us what they're doing for Wooddale, and as far as marketing, I don't think we've had a lot of contact with them, and I know you got to kind of pay to play, so to speak, but are we satisfied with the Greater Woodfield Convention Center, or is there another convention center we can jump into?
Well, we do receive a report from them, and they do offer a get-together once a year to report on what exactly they've been doing. And we've been in the Bureau now for several years, and as far as the hotels are concerned, as far as the advertising, we're pretty satisfied with what they're doing, and we're recommending we continue on.
Wonderful, thank you.
Any other questions, comments on Tourism Fund? Okay. Then, at this point, why don't I go back in order? Would that be acceptable, Ms. Powers? Starting with Road and Bridge. Road and Bridge Fund, are there any questions, comments? Alderman Subak?
We have a line item for roadway preventative maintenance of $120,000. And I thought in the capital projects we've gotten away a little bit, probably to our fault, on the slurry seal program. Gary, is this part of, to start funding that slurry seal program again?
That's correct. The city in the last couple of years has gotten away from preventative maintenance, and preventative maintenance, a little bit spent now will save a lot later. So preventative maintenance is very important. This is crack filling, various surface treatments, slurry seal, one of them, yes.
And I think at one point, I don't think you were on staff yet, but we went to a new company in Wisconsin
Farner Asphalt.
Yeah, that we seem to have better luck on the slurry seal.
I had better luck with them also, yes.
So we're expecting to be doing a large amount of, at least of this 120 is slurry seal program.
Microsurfacing, restorative treatment, which is like a chemical treatment, again, crack filling, various preventative maintenance options.
Okay. And Maggie, question for you. I'm sorry, Madam Chairman. We can use this for streetlight maintenance, but can we use this for streetlight installation?
Streetlight installation,
Ornamental lighting.
not that type of streetlight installation, no. Only with respect to more along the maintenance line. So if a streetlight got knocked down or if you needed to fill in again, you could do that, but it's not meant for the ornamental lighting.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Ptolemy?
Gary, at what point, I mean, I know the only bridge in the city that city is actually responsible for is the bridge on Elizabeth Drive. That's correct,
We
right?
actually have two, the Elizabeth Drive and the pedestrian bridge. Yeah.
Okay, but I'm, so far as
One that's used.
the, regarding the Elizabeth Drive Bridge, shouldn't we be setting up now and saving for some future point of rebuild on that?
That might be more of a question for Maggie as far as establishing a long-term capital replacement for that.
Yeah, I mean, and wouldn't it make sense for it to come out of this fund at that point? My concern is somewhere down the road, I mean, like most bridges or most everything, things deteriorate, and at some point, we're going to have to rebuild that, not just slap a coat of paint on it, or, God forbid something structurally happens to it. I mean, that's one of our main,
Gary just mentioned that if we had a 10% local match, we could probably get federal funding.
okay,
So,
but we
I need to-
should, I mean, when you're talking about a bridge, I mean, you're not
Yeah.
talking about, $100,000, you're probably
No.
talking several million, right?
Well, I think this was like 1.6 million, wasn't it, when we? No, the Elizabeth,
I'm talking about Elizabeth.
yeah. I
Yeah.
think when we priced it out,
So,
yeah, right now, basically, we're running that fund balance down to about
okay,
1
so
month's
for
worth of-
future years, I would recommend
Mm-hmm.
that we seriously consider starting to maintain a balance for that purpose, to at least cover the 10%.
Mr. Mayor?
Maggie, you mentioned that this money comes from the county. I think it comes from the township, doesn't it? Part of the township levy?
Yes.
And the township annual town meeting is coming up shortly. I don't know if Alderman Winger or Shockey remember the date that was announced to us, which is important for us to go to if we can. There was several years ago, there was a motion attempted to be made to eliminate the municipal share and for the township to take all the money. So maybe if we can get that date, we can pass it out, and everybody that can attend probably should.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Alderman Wesley?
Like 30,000 on Elizabeth Bridge, what is that for this year? And I agree with Alderman Ptolemy, we should start putting money away, but what is it, 30,000 being used for this year?
The 30,000 is proposed to paint the railings, as well as there was some miscellaneous concrete repairs that need to be done to the abutments that we were out on. So between painting and miscellaneous concrete repairs.
Okay, but what, may I continue? The 50,000 that was budgeted for 4/3 of 2007, what was put on the bridge at that?
That was, and I can't remember which workshop I came back to you on. That, the 50,000 was supposed to be a full-blown painting of the railings and all of the beams, and basically a full-blown painting of the bridge. Upon inspection, we determined that that wasn't necessary. And then we also kind of, secondary to that, stated we just weren't gonna have time to get it ready so that we could complete it by April 30th, because we're not gonna be able to begin painting till almost April 30th. So we said we'll come back with it in the next fiscal year so that we'll get it completed. We're gonna cut back the scope, though, to just paint, a limited part of the bridge.
All you did
and-
is take the 50,000 and narrow it down.
Exactly.
Okay. May I follow up one more?
Absolutely.
Chairman? I understand the road prevention maintenance of 120, I agree with that. But then it says road resurfacing repair for 10,000.
The road resurfacing repair for 10,000 is pothole patching.
Okay, that's fine, thank you.
Alderman Coles.
I thought it was last year, a couple years ago, you had the bridge inspected before you wanted to paint it.
We had the
And they
bridge.
said it was okay, it wasn't rusted up that bad, and I thought we could bypass it that couple years. That's why we didn't do it last year.
There was a bridge inspection that was performed, but that was performed as part of the Illinois State inventory that we're required to. That's actually a structural adequacy inspection that's required every several years.
It was fine.
Yeah,
I
they said it was
remember
fine from a structural standpoint, not necessarily from a maintenance or painting standpoint.
If I remember right.
Yeah.
Any other questions, comments, Road and Bridge? Okay, that closes Road and Bridge. Next fund is Motor Fuel Tax Fund. Alderman Ptolemy?
Were we gonna, if we're all in agreement, were we gonna approve them as we go through them right away? Or did you want to take them as a group at the end? It's your preference.
It's my preference to do the whole budget. Are you saying, are we going to do
Well, I
each
mean,
fund as we
just-
go, or the whole budget
Well, no,
in
if we
a
go,
month from now?
my thought is if we're going through each one of these, if we're all in agreement, it probably would be better to make a motion to approve that portion of the budget so we don't end up at a later date going back on all these again. I mean, so that we could just, get to a point where the ones we need to go back on, we'll go back on. But otherwise, if we're in agreement, we just say, make a motion to approve that portion of the budget.
Okay,
Kinda
so even where we've made changes, like Road and Bridge, let's say we made a change, then it would be like motion approve, given the
As
changes
amended,
that,
right.
as amended, and we'll just go through each one?
Correct.
Okay, then I make a motion to approve the Road and Bridge Fund. Do we actually make amendments? I don't,
Basically, as presented.
as presented, yes.
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Next fund is the Motor Fuel Tax Fund. Alderman Subak.
One question for Gary. Gary, looking at the resurfacing projects that we're looking to do in the residential areas this year, would any of them fall under motor fuel tax fund availability?
To generically answer your question, yes, they could be done with motor fuel tax funds.
Okay, then I have a question for Maggie. What would be the reason to carry any kind of significant fund balance on this account to the extent of $381,000? If we're going to get to the capital projects and see that because of extended sidewalks in different areas that we want to install because of the amount of road resurfacing projects, we could come up short here. Can we use this as a funding mechanism? Instead of
Yes.
only transferring $40,000 to capital projects, transfer $240,000. What's the reason to keep a fund balance in here?
Alderman Subak, you're absolutely right. If you'll notice in the year before, we had $470,000 that went to capital projects because that was part of a roadway program done this year, the 2006 roadway project. So when Gary comes up with these numbers, it's just based on how much of the project he feels he needs funding for.
Okay, and
So, yeah, if you wanted to, as long as Gary could get it approved, yeah, more funds could be transferred out of here into capital projects.
which would allow us to do more resurfacings of roads so we don't have to have that A list and start chopping things off at the end of the A list. Maggie, so we could really, this is a fund that every year gets replenished. And we don't need it for operating to pay the employees or anything. So we could spend it down each year, correct? So we probably have another 380,000. Let's say, 300,000 we could probably add.
Gotta be.
Careful.
Mr. Manager?
Yeah, the only reason why we don't spend it down, sometimes as we look at projects ahead, they're more expensive, so we save up some of the money and we make the transfer the next year. But I talked to Mr. Holman, he said there would be no reason currently because we do have more funds coming in for capital projects that we couldn't do that.
Alderman Ptolemy?
Yeah, my only concern is that with the motor fuel tax fund, unless you have specific roads that meet the requirements by the state, you can't use those funds just for putting them in as for maintenance on a normal road. Like if I wanted to go and let's say we wanted to do, one of our streets, let's say Maple, and we just wanted to resurface it. Since Maple doesn't meet the criteria by the state as far as the width, I mean, it's not gonna, we couldn't use those funds for that. So you have to have enough projects in order to be able to use those to qualify. Is that correct? I mean, and, Marshall, you asked for the, industrial park, and since those are under a special assessment, there should be no funds being expended from this budget other than those that were brought in by the special fund. So, I mean, you may have to go back, Gary, before you can really answer and weigh it, and say, do you have enough that's going to actually qualify?
Mr. Holm?
The way the road tax or motor fuel tax works is the rules are a little more lenient on the maintenance side than they are on the construction side.
Okay.
Using motor fuel tax to construct roads such as in Ward 4 where they aren't wide enough, you have restrictions placed on you, such as parking restrictions. Those were the restrictions that the city didn't want, which is why the city didn't use motor fuel tax to reconstruct those roads. Doing a resurfacing can be termed as maintenance. And by doing it as maintenance, you can then utilize motor fuel tax. That doesn't maybe make sense, but that's the way it's set up.
So there's a loophole.
There's a loophole. So you
Okay.
can call a resurfacing a maintenance operation, so you can be allowed to use motor fuel.
Okay,
tax.
just as long as we're you feel comfortable that you're sure, okay.
I'm going to call in Alderman Wesley, then Alderman Subak. Alderman Wesley?
Gary, equipment rental, what do we rent?
That is the leases that Maggie spoke of earlier. Those are the lease to purchase. That'd be the Vector, a couple of dump trucks, the street sweeper. I believe that's all of them. Our new lift truck.
Okay.
Alderman Subak?
Okay, if we don't want to run it all the way down to the bottom, that's fine, but in 2007, we had a projected ending balance of 240,000, and the sky didn't fall out. So even if we ran it down to 200,000 as a fund balance, that means we could transfer an additional 181,000 to the capital projects fund, which would give, believe it or not, would do a lot of resurfacing when you see the numbers. So we could transfer 221,000 to capital projects.
Is that your motion?
Sure, that'd be my motion to amend line item 08411-8-41, transfer from this to the capital projects fund in the amount of 221,000.
Second. On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Is there any other discussion on the motor fuel tax fund? Mr. Mayor?
Could you just give me an update? What's the status of the special census?
We looked into the feasibility of the cost. We put it in the budget, and we're waiting to see as far as occupancy. It's going to depend upon what goes on with Gagliano. It looks like that's going to be occupied. Lanier's moving pretty quickly. Of course, Pulte's already in. What we're trying to do is get the numbers that would offset the cost and actually give us the increase that we wanted. Jeff, do you want to say anything more? I think he's been working on this.
Well, the estimated cost for the project would be $50,000. As the city manager stated, we're just waiting to get more occupancy, basically, in our recent residential developments.
As a follow-up, though, do we need to do the whole city, or can we take just geographically, say, the Pulte development and do a 4-block area?
I believe we can specify which areas we want to do.
And I assume that would dramatically reduce the cost, and we can do some kind of cost-benefit analysis.
We're currently analyzing that now.
I make a motion to set up the motor fuel tax fund as amended with the 221,000 interfund transfer. Is there a second?
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next fund is, we covered tourism, so we're going to go into the narcotic forfeiture fund. And Ms. Powers, if you can, excuse me, Alderman Wesley?
Tourism fund, we did not vote on, right? We holding that one off? Okay, thank you.
Sure.
The narcotic forfeiture fund basically is probably the toughest one for us to budget because we have no way of knowing when the narcotic seizures money actually gets collected. Wooddale uses the fund basically to pay for the K-9 unit and occasionally for equipment. Right now, there's about $32,000 fund balance in there, and I believe the chief has, he's got $4,000 of equipment in there budgeted because now there's money in the fund. But we really don't know when those monies are going to be actually collected.
Are there any questions on the narcotics forfeiture fund? Okay, I make a motion to accept the narcotic forfeiture fund as presented. Is there a second? Second. On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next fund, it is a capital projects fund.
Okay.
What about the special business district?
You'll,
Nothing in it.
Alderman Coles, do you have a question on? Okay. Ms. Powers?
there is no budget at this point for special business district, and there may not be. I'm still waiting for some information from the Department of Revenue. The only expenditure that could possibly come up would be the payment to Maher Lumber. That would be the last payment. But I believe we have enough budgeted in this current fiscal year. And if the Department of Revenue reports the final month to me very soon, then that's all going to be taken care of. So the special business district will cease to exist. You will recall that the city still owes money to Jewel Osco Target. But that money has already been expensed in prior years, and so it's sitting as a liability on the balance sheet, so it won't go through a budget process. But when we designed these tabs and had them printed up, we couldn't have known what the status was going to be of special business district, so that's why you have it in your book. And I think that you have one other one you have the Economic Development Fund, and at this point, there is no budget for that. Nothing has been submitted on spending economic development monies. The only thing that's in there is the $821,000 that was transferred from the general fund to set that fund up, and that was the excess building permit fees. So if at some point a budget is provided, then we'll put it in the book. But now we're getting into capital type funds. These are the Equipment Replacement Fund, the Information Technology Fund, and then finally the Capital Projects Fund itself. The first one, the Equipment Replacement Fund, is used to account for the purchase of all the equipment that general fund departments use. So that's all departments except the water and sewer utility. We fund it 100% with general fund transfers, although there is a little bit of investment income, whatever is sitting in that particular bank account that can earn interest on it. And we do have an equipment replacement policy that the city has been adhering to for quite some time. You'll notice that we have, in this proposed budget, 5 vehicles for the police department, 1 for administration. They're half the cost of an administrative vehicle for city services, and then finally a chipper truck for city services. So,
Alderman Ptolemy?
I'm being facetious here, but how do you get a half of a vehicle?
yeah, just
Which half do we get? Do we get the engine, or do we?
Ms. Powers just mentioned that this is for the general fund accounts. That administrative vehicle is split between the general fund and the water and sewer enterprise fund. So half of that vehicle is coming out of
Coming out of-
equipment replacement, the other half will come out of the water and sewer enterprise fund.
Okay. Should we not, Maggie, and should we not show a transfer then from that into this equipment and replacement fund for that portion of it?
no, we don't need to.
Fine.
It's for depreciation purposes. I don't even know what this vehicle is gonna cost. It probably will exceed our capitalization level, so we'll pick it up, but we'll pick it up and charge it off depreciation-wise to water and sewer half, and then the other half
Okay.
will be general fund.
Okay.
Chief Benowitz is here to answer your questions about the equipment replacement policy that Wooddale's been